Welcome to the GOTO podcast. Each episode covers the brightest and boldest ideas from the world's leading experts in software development. Tune in for practical lessons, compelling theories, and plenty of inspiration. GOTO gathers the brightest minds in the software community to help developers tackle projects today, plan for tomorrow, and create a better future. Stay up to date with the latest in tech through GOTO's top-rated events held online and in person in cities like Amsterdam, London, Copenhagen, and Chicago, and by subscribing to the GOTO Conference's YouTube channel, where you can find thousands more high-quality dev talks. Learn more at gotopia.tech.
Hi, my name is Eric Johnson, and we're here in Amsterdam for GOTO Amsterdam. And this is GOTO Unscripted, and I'm here with Anna. Anna, why don't you tell us a little about you?
Hey, Eric. It's good to be here. I'm Anna. I'm working as a developer advocate for Red Hat, and I have a great passion for Kubernetes. Everything's related to Kubernetes and Java. So these are my greatest passions, Java and Kubernetes. And when I found ways to work together with both of them, I'm the happiest developer ever.
Wow. They picked either the right person or wrong person to interview you. So this should be fun because one, I can't spell Java. I took a Java class. First language I ever took, someone said, you should start with Java. And I was a disaster. So why Java? Why are you so passionate about Java?
The passion for Java started in university when, of course, probably like many of the students in computer science, like 10-ish years ago. We were learning first C, C++, and all those nice languages that were like dealing with memory allocation. So when I heard about Java that doesn't have all these concerns of like thinking about memory allocation and working with pointers, I was like, I need to give this a try because it doesn't work with pointers anymore. Okay. So that's where the Java part started, and I had a Java class that was like given by a very passionate person, and it's very important like when you're starting with a language, to get to know it from somebody very passionate. Yeah. It can transfer you that passion, and I just stayed like that. Well, down the road, I actually program with others as well, with PHP. Okay. I also use, from time to time, I also use Node.js. So it's not that I'm not acknowledging the rest of the ecosystem as well, but Java has been like my first and still my main love.
Wow. So yeah, so I do a little Python. I do a little JavaScript, which, is probably a year into it before it's not the same as Java. And I never understood that naming, but there it is. So I'm more of an architect. So I know I didn't say in my introduction, I actually work for AWS. I am a developer advocate as well. So I love that that's what you're doing. Tell me, and we're going to get to the Kubernetes part. I haven't forgot it. We're going to come back around.
Come on, it writes on me like Kubernetes.
I know how to say it. Yes, Kubernetes. Yes. Why is the net all capital? Is there a reason for that?
I don't know.
Okay.
But I love the cool T-shirt.
It is a cool T-shirt. Yeah,
and
I
actually,
love that shirt.
I love it very much because it has also the name of another great colleague of mine, Burr Sutter.
Okay.
He's also giving a talk here at GOTO Amsterdam.
Nice.
So I felt like, I'm going to meet Burr today. I'm going to wear this T-shirt to honor him.
All right. So tell me, developer advocate role. Why developer advocate? Why did you choose to be a developer?
I chose to be developer advocate less than a year ago, by the way. So I'm new to the field, but I chose this career change because I wanted to be even closer to communities, to developers, and to share my knowledge with everyone and as much as possible. And I saw this role as a possibility of sharing knowledge, of building new knowledge and learning new stuff and contributing to new stuff, even more than what I was doing in my previous role as architect. I loved my previous role. Yeah. I love this one as well.
Sure.
And I found it, it's challenging, but it's also very rewarding in terms of when you're building tutorials, workshops, content for folks to learn from, practices, when you're uncovering practices and you have the freedom to share them with the world, like, hey, look what I found. Yeah. This is amazing. It's an amazing feeling as a developer advocate. And I can say that I love this role, and the possibility it gives me to talk to so many people, hear about their challenges as well, and actually take those challenges and think about how I can use the knowledge I have and the technologies I have access to actually improve their life, improve what they're doing.
Yeah, it seems like I was a systems architect beforehand, and I have so much I want to tell people. It's like, we don't want to hear it, just do your job, right? But in this role, we're encouraged to learn it and tell people about it, And so I love that you said that. You're obviously passionate about it.
Yes.
And you're passionate about teaching people.
Yes.
Is that where the energy comes from? Is that where the charge comes from?
Yes.
Yeah.
I recharge when I'm talking to folks, when I'm hearing questions, even the tough questions that I don't have an answer on the moment and I need to document myself. I love those questions. I love to find out, there are different scenarios that I didn't think about or others didn't think about that I can take home and let me try this, try this. And it's so rewarding and great. I used to do this before, but at a smaller scale, because as an architect you dedicate pretty much to a certain product or project, and you're just looking to the shape of that and maybe interacting, of course, with the end user's view or some business views, but you don't get to end up with the entire world of developers with so many challenges because companies are different, they have different challenges, different cultures, and this one is like even more recharging.
The light bulb. You
Yes.
see the light bulb coming in somebody's eyes, and it's like, my job here is done.
Yes, I'm very much happy when I get feedback, when people are telling me that they understand some concepts once they saw them, and that's actually what we're working on as developer advocates, to transform those concepts that seem hard to grasp in something easier to understand. It's not like to make things even more complex. There is enough complexity in this world. We're just, do this part of the content creation so that people would understand even better those hard to touch concepts.
It's almost like there's not enough 100 level content.
Yes.
And that's what I feel like. Obviously we have to do the 400 level as well, but that's a conversation we have internally as well. Is, man, we need to turn on more light bulbs. We need to see more people at that starting point. Because you always struggle, from my endpoint, when I see someone working on something, it's like, there's a better way to do that. And let me just stop for a second. Let me show you let me just show you how to get started with this. For me, it's serverless, or it's architecture, or it's, there's all kinds of things. But it's that, and then you see them go, wow,
Yes.
Well, this is awesome. And I don't want this recorded, but I would do this for free if I had to. And my wife's like, no, you're not. But that's the pay, right? Is seeing the light bulb come on.
Yes, that's a great advantage of doing this role, that you can enable so many folks. And let's face it, in our previous roles, we actually learned from other developer advocates, and thanks to those tips. And I remember me as an attendee, and I'm still an attendee at many conferences, including this one, because I'm going to attend some talks as well. I used to go to conferences for the idea of getting training in a more relaxed way. So I love to just, have my coffee, sit in a chair, and I will enjoy this. By the way, speaking of serverless, I got to hear about Knative at DevOps Belgium.
Yeah, okay.
I was like, browsing the app, like Knative, this thing that makes serverless in Kubernetes without, depending on any function. That sounds cool. Because I was actually asking myself at that time, like, isn't somebody inventing something that I don't depend on a specific function or something like this? I mean, maybe this Kubernetes thing can help.
Yeah.
And then I got there. I got to see the first demo with Knative, and I was like so inspired. And I was like, I got ideas now. Maybe I can fit this somewhere in what I'm doing.
Sure.
So this is how you actually go forward. This is how innovation is going forward for many products, and that all of us as humans benefit from. It's not just the software companies that are the ones that are benefiting from all this technology shared at conferences, but also, companies that are actually in a specific industry, like regardless if it's financial, if it's e-commerce, and all this. So it's always good to share and to learn more.
Yeah, I think for us, and maybe this is repeating what I was saying earlier, but we spend, it's almost, we're measured by how many pitfalls did I help you avoid? Pitfalls that I certainly fell into, being, because I started with talk serverless for a second. I started with serverless when serverless was starting, right? I mean, I remember looking at it and going, why would you do it any other way? And then I did all the things wrong. I actually have a talk called The 5 Things I Did Wrong in Serverless. And I did them with passion, And so I can come to people and go, let me tell you what I did wrong and help you. And again, we measure that by how many pitfalls did I help you avoid? And it sounds like the same thing.
Yes. Well, it's good to share with folks and with developers the good side of using technology, but also the not so good, the lessons learned. Lessons learned are very useful. So I remember back in the day when I was thinking, I was having this situation when some Docker Compose scripts YAMLs needed to be transformed into Kubernetes resources.
Okay.
I knew that there was a plugin that could help me to do that out of the box, but thanks to going to a meetup and hearing the struggles of folks that use that one and told me there's this plugin, but it's not 100% giving you everything, and you just push a button and then it's going to magically do exactly what you were imagining. You still have to do it. You still have to check what it generated.
Right.
And thanks to that, when I got to this part, I was like, I remember I had to talk with somebody who said this. So also not the great stuff or what doesn't go that well with a certain version of a library, of a framework, of a product is good to know so that you don't go on that path, spend a lot of time and then be disappointed that it didn't work as expected. And it's good that you are sharing your lessons learned with serverless. There's always the technology. There's not just one technology is like a bulletproof technology against any scenario.
Right tool, right job.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that as a DA, we get kind of that license to say that may not be the best fit. We're honest with them. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm trying to help you. And that's what we always talk about. I don't have to sell serverless. I just explain it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that's probably the same for you.
Yes, exactly.
It's more of if I explain it right, it sells itself, as far as, and it sells probably not the right way, but you see people utilizing it. But I do get to be honest and say, that's not a great fit. But I know something that is, and sometimes that is a container. We're very honest, where we say, service is great for 95, whatever, and I can show you, but there are some workloads that make a lot more sense in a EKS, exactly. Which is our version of Kubernetes, Kubernetes. Yes. So
yes.
Said that right. So
yes.
So
it makes sense. It makes total sense. And similar, sometimes when you're using even the same framework, it can be the case that configured in a way that framework gives greater results for a specific type of microservice, but in another way you should use different patterns. It's not like everything is a giant copy paste.
That's right.
So it's everything you just need to readapt and see what is useful or not, especially when it comes to patterns. So for example, for one of my talks regarding Quarkus, I'm explaining why I would choose to use the repository pattern over the using the Panache entity one. And I mean, in which cases I would use the other one, or I use the other one, because I saw some applicability. When in some cases it worked great, in some others it didn't.
That's
so
right.
You should be aware of, instead of you go on your own, you try and you see but it doesn't do the same thing that this lady showed me in the nice demo.
It's not perfect.
It's not perfect.
Yeah. And I think that's the expectation to sometimes is code is perfect. It's no. So tell me this, do you have any talks here at GOTO?
Yes, I just had my talk at GOTO. I was early bird this morning. It involved Kubernetes, of course. That's why the shirt and everything. Yes. So I talked about Helm and Kubernetes operators and pretty much explaining when I would use one or the other.
Okay.
So that people would be aware of the use cases or when they could choose one or the other technologies. The whole idea of this talk started, I think, 2 years ago. When I heard somebody that, they heard about Kubernetes operators, I was at the conference. And one of the attendees said, "Oh, this operator thing is way greater than Helm. I'm going to use it everywhere." It's like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
So that's why I got the idea of this talk, so that people will not use it everywhere, but only when they need it.
So tell me this, and obviously working with serverless like I do, I know what operators are. I mean, come on. But maybe let's pretend I don't. So what is an operator? What is an operator for Kubernetes?
An operator of Kubernetes, I would say it's, is a technology that you can use in order to, that you can use with resources like stateful sets or resources that are not stateless in terms of maintaining. In order to automate some of your human operational knowledge. So pretty much that was the idea of operators, to add an extra level of automation on top of what was available in Kubernetes resources, because Kubernetes is great with its vanilla resources. But if you want to add more self-healing to your resources, for example, especially stateful ones, which are very... Are very sensitive, then an operator is there to help you, like to automate more of your job and to delegate that operation, that automation to Kubernetes. So pretty much that I would say in a nutshell, that is an operator.
Okay. All right.
And I didn't demo this. I forgot about demoing this. But I used to demo the operators by deleting the deployment that is managed by an operator, and then the operator was spinning up a deployment again. Because operators have this much more power over the resources contained in it to self-heal. So if you want more self-healing, more goodness out of Kubernetes, operators are great.
Okay, so it kind of sits outside and can manage.
It's not necessarily outside. It's I would say it's a nice add-on, because it's not. It works with kubectl. It works with the dashboards that we have with different Kubernetes distributions. So it's native. And the reason why it's native, because an operator is typically comprised from custom resource definitions, and it works with a controller that is, controlling over those resources. Controlling over those resources. So that deployment being recreated after I deleted it is actually done by that controller that is like mitigating, is looking like, hey, there should be a deployment running over there. So that's how things are working. It's just another level over the regular Kubernetes API that you get thanks to custom resource definitions. So custom resource definitions have been there for a while with Kubernetes, but this type of working with Kubernetes took an extra level for us to automate even better. I love operators in terms of doing those not so nice jobs of backups and restores.
Okay.
Because when learning Kubernetes, I also did the Kubernetes hard way of
5 things I did wrong.
Well, it's not 5 things I did wrong, but it was more like learning. Mm-hmm. So you, especially when you want to get certified, you have to learn how to do this manually. So I did this manually, and when I was doing this manually, especially on the exam, for backups, restores, and all this, or upgrades, I was like, I hope in this world there are better ways to do this than me manually in a black terminal, and hoping that I'm not messing up some commands over here, because I used to tremble over the backups or the restores thing, because it felt a little bit black boxed, and operators are great in terms of like not being so black box, or at least you're trusting that that set of resources that they're going to do the job. And nowadays it's easier to install different plugins over Kubernetes via the operators than just going yourself manually install the many YAMLs like we used to do it in the beginning. So no more, no more Knative installed the old ways, the old-fashioned way. No more Istio installed via, just applying a lot of YAML. You can get nice UIs, and you can see, this is the great part, you can see, and you don't have to do anything extra with your Kubernetes cluster to know about an operator. So it's natively coming over there. You just have to create it, or you use one that's available on operatorhub.io. So
it's, it almost, and I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but I'm probably gonna do that, or just completely misunderstand. But it's an abstracted layer of management.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So that you can manage, automate things even more.
Got it. Okay.
With those resources that you kind of had trouble.
Yeah.
Because Helm charts work great. However, in terms of Helm charts and upgrades over the stateful sets, for example, that is something that can be partially covered via the Helm package manager.
Okay.
The other part with the volumes, so management of the volume side, it's something that you need an extra tool to help you with that one. While with operators, you can get a little bit more help in working all together with the entire thing that you deployed over there.
Okay, nice. All right, so that makes sense. So how did the talk go?
I think it went great. I got a lot of questions, and I was about to get late to the interview.
Okay,
So,
those are the good ones. It's the hallway
Yes.
track is my favorite. Yeah, when you get to do that. What was the toughest question you got?
was not their tough question.
This one right here.
This one, yes.
It was the question about my toughest question. So yeah.
Yes, exactly.
All right. What was the most interesting question? So.
I think that the interesting question was about when somebody asked, like, comparing operators with Terraform.
Oh, okay.
So it would give me the opportunity to explain when I would use Terraform and when I would use operators, so that people would understand, like, and not become confused about the concepts, you know. That was an interesting thing to hear about. Other questions were like if there are any other tools, like Helm, for example, in the market to help with package management, with, you know, parameterizing and all these stuff.
Right.
So yeah, these kind of questions are people detailing about their practices in their companies and looking for, like, advice, like how can we make it better?
Yeah. Okay.
I love these kind of discussions around also about culture and the DevOps culture that some company has.
Yeah.
And how they can communicate better between the two backgrounds, the operational and the developer ones. Because let's face it, I mean, DevOps is a great practice. We probably all kind of read the Phoenix Project, or those that didn't recommend.
Yeah.
But it's still something that for many folks it's a work in progress, and actually it's good to be work in progress. It's not something that, we achieve DevOps, we do DevOps, and that's when it stops.
I've noticed that as well. It feels like we go through, I mean, there's always, we're constantly learning. Our industry is one that's constantly flexing, constantly changing.
Exactly.
I want to go back to something you had talked about, the process of communication, things like that. How does that, how do you all do that inside of Red Hat? How does customer feedback come in as a DevRel, and how do you handle that?
Well, we talk to the community. It's pretty straightforward, and I think it's pretty much like in the same for the rest of the folks, because we're with the communities most of the time.
Okay.
So I'm with the community as a developer advocate, and that's where we get feedback from everywhere. It's not just I would say it's for products, especially nowadays. It's important for them to listen feedback not just from customer side, but also from community side. And as you observe, there is a lot of passion of going open source throughout many companies. Red Hat has its flagship around being open source, and we are open source. We like to open source stuff. And that's so that's from my point of view. It's like an open conversation all the time with everybody, and every feedback counts and matters. It's not like somebody's having a priority or something like this. So every important and sometimes you can get even more valuable feedback from folks that are not your customers. And
why aren't you a customer? Here's why. Yeah, no, I agree with that.
That's not my talk.
Yeah.
That's not my area of expertise.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes that is good feedback. And the reason I'm not a customer is because this A, B, and C. And those are the tough ones to take back to the teams. But yeah, I agree with that. I'll tell you as a side note, just so you know, first Linux I ever did was Slackware. But then I quickly got to Red Hat. And I ran Red Hat quite a bit. So yeah, yes. That tells you how old I am, though. So yeah, I'm dating myself.
Well, my parents are not in IT, or my uncles or my cousins have been for a short while interacting with IT. But when I told my cousin, for example, that I'm joining Red Hat, she said, "Oh, the Linux company." It's like, you know Red Hat?
Yeah.
I mean, I was surprised because it was the first time that I think that I've heard my family having an opinion and like, oh, I know what you're going to do next.
Wow, okay.
And I was like, yeah, they do much more than that, but it's okay. It was a good start. And I was like, oh, so my family knows about this. That's a good thing.
So do they understand what you do?
They know that I'm doing learning for other folks, and that I am, instructing other folks on how to use certain technologies, and that's pretty much it.
Okay.
That's where they...
Ours is a hard role to tell people about.
It always has been like that. I mean, it started from the developer, from coding, and to upper level. And the way I used to explain it in the beginning to family, actually, my parents kind of had to know it because I'm their kid. So. But with other folks like neighbors or folks that I was meeting, I was still I'm working with computers. Oh yeah, you're working with computers.
Yes.
It's the easiest explanation you can give. It works the best. So it works. I'm working with computers. Okay.
There's a level of abstraction. Like I'll say, I'll do the same thing. You know, I'm a developer advocate for AWS. And you can see the glaze. I work for Amazon. Oh, okay. Do you deliver? Yes, that's what I do. Sometimes it's just easier to say yes. You know, yes, I work in a distribution center.
And somebody's calling you like, oh, can I give you this tracking number to see what's happened with it?
My books are late. Okay, I don't do that. I lied just to make it easier on us, but yes, that's funny. So it is a tough role to explain. But so tell me this: if knowing this role, I'd love to kind of get your opinion because I have people ask me. Because here's the truth: we have one of the greatest jobs on the planet, and I can see by your face that you agree. And earlier we said, you know, how fun it is, but. Someone wanted to get into a DevRel role, either in Red Hat or at AWS, something like that. What is your recommendation?
So for somebody to get into DevRel, that's a generic answer from my perspective. I would say to have a passion for continuous learning, and also like look into our IT world, what other technologies would add to your existing layer of knowledge, and how do you pair those together? Talk to people. Have this passion of talking to people, but also listening to people and their experiences, because listening is very important. So you have to be really, to have some empathy with those that are coming to you and talking to you. And also sometimes to be a little resilient in terms of accepting feedback, because it's not everything like fairy and nice and everything goes smoothly. So you have to also be prepared for some negativity or for people not to grasp certain concepts from you. It can happen. It's in a big audience room, it can happen that some folks will not have the same understanding as you probably would have wanted. It's, you know, that saying is very difficult to keep everybody happy and make everybody happy. It's the same here, so you have to be prepared for that one as well. But overall, it's a very rewarding job, and this is probably why a lot of folks are asking. But you have to be like prepared a little bit for the long run learning to the next level of connecting things and technologies. So that's my advice. But if you feel that that's your calling and you want to do that and interact with a lot of folks and instruct a lot of folks on how to improve themselves, that's a good way of being. And of course, have a passion of creating content, which is content can be in various forms. And when you see the GitHub repos, that's just one thing. But creating nice tutorials with nice steps, that's a very important, and it takes time and patience to create those in such a way that people, when they go through that tutorial, they actually learn something, and all the steps are well connected. Because if you don't connect well the steps, people will be confused and frustrated. Like, how do I jump from this one to this one? Is there some magic? And then they will have disconnected concepts and maybe abandon learning some of the technologies.
I agree with everything you said. One of the things that I really liked that not a lot of, because I've asked other people, what do you tell them? One of the things you said is the the forward thinking, looking at what's the next thing. I think that's a really good point. It's that understanding, it's kind of reading of the tea leaves sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. Of understanding what the next thing is, and to kind of be as much on that as you can. The other thing is the content creation. And I tell folks, don't wait to get paid to do it. You know, that's the passion is there. Create a blog, create a repo, create a tutorials, much like you were saying. I mean, I know for us, when we see that, it's like, okay, they're passionate about it. So I think this is great advice.
Content creation can, as you said, can start not just by having the role. And we are doing this, apart from the dev role, for the reason of helping others not deal with the same struggles. I mean, that's how I started, by sharing stuff, so that I help others not dealing with the same struggles I had. So there's no point, because if the entire humanity doesn't get to struggle with the same things, we're going forward much faster. Yeah. That's the idea of sharing. Otherwise, if we all stay in our small cubicle or square and not share anything with anybody, it's going to go way slower in terms of innovation.
Agreed. Well, I know we're running out of time here, so I want to tell you, first of all, thanks a lot for meeting with me.
Great questions and conversation.
Thoroughly. I love talking to other DAs to see what life is like, what they're doing, other technologies, hearing about that. So I want to thank you for your time. And we appreciate you taking this time to listen to GOTO Unscripted live from GOTO Amsterdam, right after Anna's session, so which I'm sure you rocked, and appreciate it. And if you want to tell anybody, you have any last minute things you want to throw out?
Well, please watch it. It's going to probably be published at some point online, because there's a lot of goodness going on there. Besides the GitHub repo, there's some links to some books.
Okay.
So that's
all right.
it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the GOTO podcast. Head over to gotopia.tech to discover lots more content from the brightest minds in software development.